Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. Did I close out TweetDeck before I finished writing? Probably. I'm your host, as always, Chad Porter. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Mox Grant. Marcus, get off our land! Dave Scoville, Christopher Titus. Actually, just Dave Scoville from the show Titus. Check it out. It's a good show. It's like old as shit, though. But it's still one of my favorites.
It's me, Dutton, your worst enemy. And who's that? Progress.
I have not seen Yellowstone, but I assume that's one of the better lines from the show.
No, I just made that up, but essentially that's the plot.
I thought the plot was get off my land.
No, yeah, he's talking to Progress. Essentially, all these new buildings and whatnot, and airports and casinos, which is a weird correlation because also talking about like the Indians being on reservations and having that land before even the Duttons had it, and now obviously being removed from it. But yeah, progress comes everywhere, except Montana, where one man owns an entire park.
Right. Speaking of owning an entire park, last night's was it last night or was it Saturday? My week is ran together. Don't know which way is up. It was last night. Last night's Revolution
AEW
event.
Revolution.
Yeah, last night's Revolution event took place. It was apparently a very lackluster booked card, and then everyone was saying it was the best pay-per-view AEW has ever done. So I don't know. Don't judge a card by its booking, or do, because literally. Here's the thing that really irks me. Everyone's like, you can't judge a movie by its trailer. Actually, you can. Because the trailer is supposed to decide, or is supposed to help you decide whether or not you want to see it. So if the build up to and or hype of does not really get you interested, that's entirely fair. You don't have to spend money on something you don't think is going to be good based off of the presentation of the preview. The preview is supposed to tell you this is supposed to be good. Marcus, have you ever had bad samples that made you go, yeah, I want to try that food now?
No, but I feel like in terms of flicking it back to the cinematic point, I feel like you can say that about those Bay Transformers films.
I'm still pretty sure that the trailers and the Bay Transformer films are just the same thing. One's a trailer for the film, the other one's a trailer for brand products.
You're not wrong because that one of them that had Wahlberg had a whole scene where it was a brand beer spit all over the thing, and he picked one up and drunk it. He must. The only thing he didn't say was the name of the beer.
There was, I think it was the sequel had, because like the Energon cube thing got loose, and it started like shocking all the machines, and one of them turned into a transformer, and it was like a Mountain Dew machine, and then he transformed into a robot, and he was shooting Mountain Dew cans from his body.
but not even. But even like this is somebody who was a fan of this movie, the 2017 Power Rangers film, where in the final act, the main location for the MacGuffin of the film was literally, and they said this several times, the Krispy Kreme.
At least they know where to put the MacGuffin. Now, full disclosure, I'm not a fan of Boston. If like Russia is like, hey, we're gonna annex Boston, I'd be like, oh, no, that's cool. If they're like, we're gonna annex Foxborough or Vermont, I'd be like, go to hell, Putin. I'll see you there when I take you with me. Boston, now you get.
Oh, they was aiming for Texas, but hit Boston. Like, no, I think that's enough. I think you
Well,
did.
I say all that to say this: the one Boston thing I do enjoy is Dunkin' Donuts. The problem is Dunkin' Donuts isn't so much about the donuts anymore.
About the coffee.
They're more about the coffee and the breakfast sandwiches now.
I was meaning to ask you about that. They really have better donuts because I've never had Dunkin' Donuts.
They used to have like 30 flavors or 40 flavors every day. Now you'll be lucky to see if they have 8 or 10, and if they have any left afternoon. They just don't put as much emphasis on the donuts anymore. So I would say if you're looking for donuts, if you're looking for a big brand, then yeah, I think Krispy Kreme does have a better selection because they are strictly donuts. And I will say their strawberry donut, where it's just like the strawberry goo.
Oh, the filling, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I feel that
that
way.
one tops the Dunkin' Donuts one for sure.
I feel that way about the lemon, but that's the only that one and the cream is the only two I've had. And they have a nice selection. I like to stick with I know.
Fair.
But yeah, I mean they getting creative with they stuff like Pizza Hut be coming out with these new variations. Like we got like the pizza dipping, uh, like where you could tear the edges off and it's like
Yeah,
almost braid nuggets. Yeah,
yeah. I think they're like pizza poppers is what they're called or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, Dunkin' over Crispy 20 years ago, but today, I don't know. My local Speedway has better donuts than both, so like I don't even know.
Wow, that's interesting, but you're not wrong. You find a certain chains, it's like these real popular food chains, not even hitting on nothing when because there's probably other localized donut brands that have better donuts, but again, you don't have the PR and you don't have as many stores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Speaking of PR, AEW is going to have some issues with theirs coming up here in a little bit. So
nice.
Ricky Starks defeated Chris Jericho. Jungle Boy defeated Christian Cage. The House of Black are the new AEW World Trios champions after they defeated the Elite. Uh, Jamie Hayter retained over Saraya. Am I saying that right? Saraya?
Soraya.
Saraya. And Ruby Soho. Ruby Soho turned heel. Hangman Page defeated John Moxley in a Texas Death Match by submission, which completely just irritates me because Texas Death Matches is usually not a submission match. It's
Hey,
pinfall or 10 count.
hey, look, Chad, the hangman hung him.
Dumb. Wardlow defeated Samoa Joe by technical submission, so that means Samoa Joe didn't tap, he passed. So now Wardlow is once again the TNT champion, but does anyone care about Wardlow anymore? I don't. The Guns committed sacrilege when they defeated Orange Cassidy and Danhausen and two other teams, I guess, that were around. Who cares? To
But
retain the AEW World Tag Team titles.
I was just watching the highlights as we were talking. Danhausen looked great, and he didn't get pinned. I don't think he got pinned.
I love that he looked just like Orange Cassidy coming out. Like, that was adorable. I'm telling you, like, Danhausen's a world champion waiting to happen. And people will show up for it. In fact, the two most consecutively, not consecutively, consistently, the two most consistently watched stars of AEW's YouTube channel are Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. Specifically, Orange Cassidy. People love Orange Cassidy. So if you really want to get over, have Orange Cassidy take the belt. And it's very possible that they're going to need to do something fast because in the main event, MJF defeated Bryan Danielson 4-3 in a 60-minute Iron Man match with a 5-minute 20-second run overtime because of a tie. But during the course of I don't remember exactly when in the match it happened, but MJF would be seen throwing what is a suit. I've heard, I cannot confirm, that it was some type of alcohol onto a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid. And by all accounts, just based off of what everyone is saying after it happened, it was not a work. You know, Sarah Huber, I don't know how to pronounce Brody Lee's real last name. His widowed wife, who now works with AEW in some capacity, was out there trying to mend fences with the boy and his mother. Apparently, there was some free stuff sent to them, and AEW did all they could to kind of smooth things over. And apparently, Tony Khan and MJF got into it in the back, with MJF being read the riot act, so to speak. To what degree, I don't know. But here's one report. The MJF and Tony Khan both comment on the drink throwing incident in AEW Revolution. Uh, so, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful says it seems like the kid MJF threw a drink on wasn't a plant. He was very upset. William RBR on Twitter went in and got him an acclaimed foam finger. Some others from AEW talked to the child to help smooth things over. Amanda Huber is sitting with him now. MJF was asked about it, and he said the kid looked thirsty. What's the second question during the media scrum? Then apparently when asked if there'd be any consequences for MJF, Khan stated that they had a serious conversation about the incident and that the situation wasn't going to be taken lightly. He stated that the fan, who he identified as Titus, was a real champ, and he believed he would be in attendance at AEW Dynamite in Sacramento on March 8th. We had a conversation before he came up here. We had a serious conversation, I mean that. It's not being taken lightly. The young man Titus was a real pro about it. We'll see Titus here again in AEW. I believe Titus is actually coming to Sacramento. I was just with him, and he was a real champ about it. The champion didn't act like a champion there, but I think Titus was great. MJF concluded, salt of the earth, that Titus, real worried about him. During the scrum, MJF also discussed his victory and highlighted his intense preparation for the match. According to Brian Alvarez, that multiple sources, multiple sources, they just had a typo. Water was not in the cup that MJF threw. Instead, it is apparently tequila, and the fan was upset about that. He then noted that Titus was brought backstage and was given signed merchandise as well as tickets to AEW Dynamite on March 8th. Excuse me. Now we have some people like Ross W. Berman of Wrestling Incorporated saying MJF shouldn't be punished for playing his character at AEW Revolution, but I have a very different opinion on that. According to California law, throwing a drink at somebody is considered assault. Throwing an alcoholic beverage at somebody is considered assault. Throwing an alcoholic beverage at a child raises the previous two assaults, which were misdemeanors, to a felony. If this child and his mother are truly displeased about the actions, and if it was my kid, if I had a kid, I would have attacked MJF right there on the spot and hurt him. Because this whole gimmick where he's always in character or he's not playing a character, he's just this bad of a person in general, it's gone too far. You've literally assaulted a child now, and you can sit and say, well, he didn't actually hurt him. If you've ever been randomly attacked with some type of projectile unknowingly and unwillingly, that's traumatic.
You can't hurt somebody by spitting on them either, but
that's illegal too.
But if they get in your face, that's a death warrant.
So, according to California law, a simple assault is misdemeanor in California. The penalties for such change including a fine up to $1,000 or 6 months in county jail. Some examples of situations where assault charges may be filed in California, or a woman throwing a drink at a man who offended her. So, if a woman throws a drink at a man who offended her, and that constitutes misdemeanor assault for a $1,000 fine or 6 months in county jail, add on that an alcoholic beverage is actually an accelerant. So let me see where I can find that, because that was something specific.
So you give them a pre-burn charge.
Well, they say that if you throw a drink or a liquid that can cause harm, that's another tacked on penalty.
Yeah,
so
possibly.
Like if somebody had like a vape pen or was lighting up a match or what have you, those fumes would have lit up, and since they were on the kid, it would have been bad. Now, just because that wasn't the scenario that ended up happening, that doesn't change the classification of the assault. So, the more and more I look into California law, the more and more I realize just how bad this is for AEW. Because this not only opens up MJF to criminal charges. We're not talking misdemeanor charges anymore. We're talking felony charges, should they pursue that route. And they have like up to 2 years, I think, 3 years maybe, to file those charges. But AEW is now on the hook as well because they allowed MJF to do this. This company cannot afford MJF as their champion because MJF cannot be controlled. And frankly, if I was Tony Khan, I would say, I'm done. I would take the belt off of him immediately. I would suspend him indefinitely, and then I would say I'm not going to do anything to his contract. When his contract is over, I'm going to offer him a contract at like 25,000 per year. Not because I know he's going to resign, but because the WWE will now see that contract offer and be like, we don't need to pay him anything now. If he gets hired at all. This dude has taken his gimmick way too far. And the sad thing is, if it wasn't for the fact that he took his gimmick too far, no one would care because he's not that good. His whole promo style is, I'm going to say something that will legitimately offend you, and you can't truly be mad about it because I'm playing a character. That's all he's got. And then his matches are fucking boring. You think I wanted to watch a 60-minute Iron Man match with this man? Even if he was facing Bryan Danielson? Hell no.
Yeah, his character works because of works to his advantage because of the times we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really everything you said. He's taking it too far. He probably is that degree of a-hole, and he's using the character as a gray area excuse to blend the reality and whatnot. And it's funny, and give WWE a lot of flack, and a lot of times they do deserve it. But they do that crowd, the heels in that company do the crowd messing with thing correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't feel like somebody in WWE would have pulled that. Like the most I've seen in terms of depth, in terms of this era that we live in the last maybe decade or so, where it potentially got a little heated when somebody has said something either racist or bigoted towards somebody like Sami Zayn or like one of the women.
But even then,
And
it's
then,
never escalated to this.
yeah.
And like, listen, I'm like, if you're a fan, you get in the ring and you get concussed, I'm fine with that.
Oh yeah, we talking about that. At that point, that's your ass. You you put yourself in that scenario.
But a kid who's sitting in his seat, minding his own business, trying to take in a show, and I think this was like their debut in San Francisco, and I don't know how many shows they've had in California, so I could take a healthy guess and say that this was probably his first AEW show. I don't know that. I'm assuming that. But you go out there and you ruin that kid's experience, and it's not like those were cheap seats either. Those are floor seats in California. Like, you're looking at $100 a pop, plus food, drink. I'm sure the mom bought him merch. That's $200-$300, maybe even $400 for the night. So yeah, that's pretty fucked. And the sad thing is there's too many people who have entrenched themselves into this ideologue, this tribalism, where they're making excuses for truly traumatically bad behavior. Oh, he's in his character. Listen, anything inside that barricade is fair game, because I believe that it's we're both in on this. It's part of the show. The minute you go into the crowd and you bring the crowd into it, it's no longer part of the show. And sometimes companies try to get away with that with plans. But here's the problem. Even if that was a plan, AEW would be looking at child abuse laws being violated because a 12-year-old isn't legally allowed to get into a physical confrontation with an adult in any real capacity. So it can't be a plant by law. It's one thing to do a scene where, I don't even remember who it was. It was Vince Russo and I think maybe David Flair. Like, we're harassing a 14-year-old Charlotte Flair who was already 6'2". The fuck is going on in that family? But like, they weren't physically accosted in a live environment where the perception is that it was real. They were filmed with release forms and contracts and whatnot being used. It's a vastly different situation. And for somebody to say you can't punish MJF for playing his character is despicable, because this child is going to have to deal with this fact for a long time. And it does not help Tony Khan's case by name dropping the kid and making him possible to be found. Because now you're going to have people who are so dogged with their support of AEW and support of MJF that they're probably going to end up harassing this kid at some point, if they haven't started already.
Yeah, because the internet is just nothing but time having bastards that have nothing else to do than to look, lurk, search, and destroy. Um, yeah, that comment about whoever that guy was, of course, you say it's Wrestling Inc. Incorporated, so it's immediately trash. Um, nothing personal, but historically, it's just not a.
They're a trash website.
Yeah, they have a horrible track record. Um, that takes me back to the thing with Dreamer and Flair, because I'm like, what could that man have done on that plane that would have actually made you scold him verbally
Mm-hmm.
about his actions? So I'm looking at this MJF thing. If if it wouldn't have been a drink and the woman said something or she didn't say anything, he just turned around like how she looked and like pulled her shirt up or something. Like what could he have done that would have been out of the realm of oh he was just in character? Like where's the line, a hole? Where's the line?
And to your point, here's what the article says, and I'm reading snippets of it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. This writer from Wrestling Inc. goes on to say, this seemingly harmless, albeit mean-spirited, act has set the wrestling world on aflame, with many feeling that the longtime heel MJF was out of line in throwing liquid on an unsuspecting child, who has been confirmed to not have been any kind of plant. To complicate matters further, the clear liquid at MJF tossed out, without even a second glance, was reportedly tequila or some other kind of alcohol. In the post pay per view scrum, AEW Tony Khan said that he'd already had a serious conversation with about the incident, and AEW community outreach liaison Amanda Huber had already given Titus tickets to the upcoming Dynamite event. Despite AEW acknowledging the situation in the scrum and seemingly taking steps to rectify the situation, some are still calling for the company to hold MJF accountable in some form. However, outside of making MJF foot the bill for the AEW swag titles, there are a few punitive options at their disposal, and that's okay. Punishing MJF for his transgressions is the babyface's job, not AEW's. This isn't a storyline. And here's the thing that really pisses me off. The writer also kind of goes on to say that, like, well, SeaWorld has a splash zone. Gallagher had a splash zone. This is supposed to be expected. No, it's not. Throwing alcohol on a child is a felony.
Did he say SeaWorld had a yes,
Yes,
it had a splash zone, idiot.
the opening of his article said the splash zone. SeaWorld has one. Gallagher had one, and now AEW has one. This motherfucker is really trying to say, like, listen, you can throw alcohol on a child. That's not illegal. And like that's the thing. Like this dude is so high on 1970s era wrestling that he doesn't understand that a felony took place on camera. And for what it's worth, a misdemeanor in California, you have 1 year to file charges. A felony, you have 3. So they have time to file a suit if they want. This asshole goes on to say MJF does not break character, and that's not a bug, it's a feature. His character isn't throwing alcohol on children. This was an unnecessary step, and for anyone to defend him is a bitch. You don't assault children. I don't know why we have to say that. Now you can argue, well, it's not really assault. According to California law, it is. You don't get to tell us what assaults are or aren't. They're laws for a reason. The laws state explicitly if you throw a drink on somebody, that's a misdemeanor. If you throw an alcoholic drink on a minor, that's a felony. You're looking at 3 years in a California county prison for that. Don't hit me with this, it's a character. He's a character. He's just playing a character. No, he assaulted a child on pay-per-view. He shouldn't just be suspended. He should be fired. He should be fucking fired. But Tony Khan is such a little cuck. He's not going to do anything because we all know that the wrestlers run the company. Tony Khan's the worst fucking owner ever, and that's with Dixie Carter circa 2010 on the table. This has me heated, Marcus, because children should never be part of these types of antics.
No, man. I mean, we should be heated. This is a thing because again, it's a hole that's hiding behind a character. That's an a hole. And to be fair, like if you want to kiss MJF's ass that bad, whoever this writer is, whatever he didn't even add to the match. If he was such a great heel, it didn't add to the match. It wasn't a Daniel Bryan super fan. It wasn't a family member. It wasn't somebody that he had brought to the show as like a Make-A-Wish. It was just him being an a-hole, which didn't need any help because the whole reason why he's having a match with Bryan is because he's an a-hole. So it literally did nothing. It was a nothing burger for no reason.
So reading this article is just getting me heater. So here we go. Wrestling operates in an odd place, this asshole writes, where reality entertainment often blab. It's what has made MJF's commitment to being contemptible scoundrel at the most impressive to many, but it also makes it harder to gauge how malicious he truly intended to be towards a young fan. Scan of the footage will show you that the clear cup he grabs is full of equally clear liquid. So it's safe to guess that MJF assumed that the cup was full of water. I'm going to come back to that. Should he have smelled the cup? Probably. Would it have been smarter to feign throwing the liquid on the kid? More than likely. But it would also have been a betrayal of his character that had made MJF so popular to second-guess his instincts to be careful. So he threw the drink in the moment. MJF looked at a cup of clear liquid and a small child and thought, I'm going to send this kid to Splash Mountain. But here's the thing. That's still illegal, even if it's water. You can't just throw shit on people. It's illegal in California. So all of this, he thought it was water. You know what's even a bigger trump card? He shouldn't have thrown anything. Because nothing about throwing something on a kid is part of this dude's character. You don't need to do it. It isn't like he's routinely going around throwing Skittles and Rice-A-Roni on people. It's not part of his gimmick. There was no need for him to throw anything, and that's the thing this dude is missing. The law is pretty fucking clear on this. I can give you 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different LA lawyer websites that you can look this up yourself. It's not a debatable topic. He fucked up, and he needs to be punished more than what he is.
It feels like he's trying to gatekeep something that no longer has a building.
Right?
Like name a curtain about this business that ain't been pulled back since we've been watching this sport. Like Undertaker feels like he's done more interviews in the last 2 years in his entire career.
Which he probably had. That's a fair
exactly. Yeah. There's no more curtains. We get it. Everybody's in on the joke. Like it was just like it's like the third act of freaking Batman Forever. No more riddles, no more puzzles. Like Two-Face said, just curtains. Yeah.
Could you imagine if Michael Keaton 37 years later or whatever it is, 34 years later, 32 years later, is still going around telling everyone, no, I'm really Bruce Wayne. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Bruce Wayne. I'm the Batman. This whole need to protect something that doesn't need protecting is stupid. More importantly, to protect someone who committed a felony is even dumber. And thirdly, the buy rates have been down. Not the house shows, but the attendance for TV shows have been down. Rampage ratings are down. Dynamite's ratings are down. MJF isn't moving the fucking needle. So what's this onus to protect him? He's not popular. He's not moving the needle. No one is here to see MJF. No one's here to see MJF get his ass kicked. He's become someone that people actively don't like. Not to the point where I want to see him get beat up. We don't want to see him at all.
Yeah, you gotta go away, Heat. Yeah, but what about that bidding war of 2024, Jack?
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. He'll probably leave or not, but this whole there's gonna be a huge bidding war. Why would the WWE want to sign somebody who assaults fans? Why would a new owner want to sign somebody who assaults fans? Are you kidding? But in the 70s, this used to happen all the time. Yeah, and in the 70s, my co-host couldn't go into certain restaurants. So you know what? Maybe times need to fucking change. So I'm not on with that. I'm not on board with some of this nonsense. I'm all about the big, dramatic, over-the-top characters, like your Hulk Hogan's, your Rosemary's, your honky-tonk mans. But this need to blend and blur the line, that's not necessary. Granted, I don't root for Hogan anymore, but when you look at the best characters in wrestling, they're the ones that stand out as characters. I know Danhausen's not a demonic movie host from the 1980s who actually collects teeth. I know he's not. I don't need to, constantly go, all right, I know that's fake, but was that real? Because guess what? I don't watch wrestling because I want to see if it's real or not. That was an Eric Bischoff thing. I don't know why Tony Khan wants to go down this road because it's not working. If you look at the numbers, Dave Meltzer said it constantly on his Twitter feed that the numbers for AEW have declined in recent weeks. And I have a giant assumption that it has to do with who's on top because nobody wants to see 35 minutes of MJF on a 2-hour program. he's not likable. And here's the thing: even if it's a heel, he should be likable. The face should be likable. Danhausen, Orange Cassidy, Chris Jericho. Even though we're not Jericho fans, Jericho's likable. People like rooting for Chris Jericho. This notion of creating villains that you hate so much that you want to see get beaten up, that doesn't work anymore. It's like when you're trying to make comics that tell a social, justice narrative. In the 80s, that was necessary because there was no other outlet for it. Now, with the advent of 24-hour news cycles and social media, we're inundated with it, so it becomes almost too much. Things need to change as the world evolves, and having these concepts like characters, you can't tell if they're playing a character. That's not a good thing. Joaquin Phoenix got slammed for doing that shit when he was doing that one movie where he became a rapper, or it was like a fake biopic about his life, and he tried to become a rapper. Not a raptor, although that would have been a dope-ass movie. Like, do you remember that? Like, he had, like, unkempt hair, and he went on, like, Letterman, and he was just, like, really, like, ornery, and nobody, like, could understand what's going on. He's like, oh, no, it's just a movie. It's just a role. Nobody liked him for that. Jared Leto was one of the least respected human beings alive because of his antics when he was the Joker.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that shit. Like, sociopaths, psychopaths, bad people like that shit.
Yeah,
I want characters. I'm weird.
You try to go that method, and you don't keep it self-contained when, like, you sending dead rats to, like, esteemed legends like Viola Davis's trailer, and she's not with all that stuff. And also, this is also coming with my co-host, coming from a guy who's done security for a number of years. So you are very familiar with all different varying levels of a-holes.
Yeah.
So you know that. And also, this is post the speaking out movement. It's not going to help most guys when people know you're an a-hole in real life. It's just not.
Apparently, MJF's fiance left him. And everyone's like, well, you don't know what's true or not. I don't need to know what's true. If you're putting out a narrative that you're such a horrible human being that your wife left you or your fiance left you, why would I care if that's not true? Because here's what it says. Either one, it's true, and it says that you're such a bad person, even your significant other couldn't stand to be around you. Or two, you're such a bad person that you're going to put your significant other through a unnecessary amount of emotional drama by subjecting her to a fan base that, frankly, are terrible people.
Yeah.
Either way, it's a bad thing. Like, there's no good deed. It's like, well, I pranked my son on Christmas morning by telling him he didn't have any presents, but then I gave him his present, and it was a box of shit. None of those is a good thing.
Also, they don't have the track record in this company to be like, oh, it was a stunt. I'm like, you seen what happened with Punk and Hangman. Obviously, we all know that backstage fight happened.
Marcus, I want to interrupt you because the most obvious one needs to be said right now. The last time they tried to do a stunt, it was a sparkler show.
Yeah.
They're not good at it, and they shouldn't try it.
Which was so bad, I wiped out of my mind until you just brought it up. And freaking, speaking of Kingston jumped on freaking Moxley like somebody threw a grenade, which was hilarious. But this is also the company, speaking of relationships, where a dude proposed to his girlfriend in the ring, and then months later, all of a sudden popped up with Tanera Conti.
Right?
And that's the thing. This ain't the company that makes it a point to like overly blur lines. What a lot of times, because the whole thing is like we're more realer than WWE. So this ain't the company that has a track record of doing the thing like they did with Cena, where they tried to link him losing to The Rock as one of the reasons why his first marriage failed. They don't do that here. No. So you're not gonna buy. If he came out there and said that, it happened.
Here's the thing. This company was started with the idea that they would be very progressive. They have Kenny Omega running the women's division. They were going to have a stout, robust tag team division. They were going to have, equal opportunity, LGBTQI plus, whatever it is,
Popped up later with Tanera Conti.
Right? Yeah, like they had all these things in motion, and then on their second ever show, Kenny Omega gets criticism for bringing on a sex offender onto the card. Anything after that, I feel like, guys, the cat's out of the bag. AEW is just as bad as WWE. So for this idea that this kid with a plan, and it's not a big, like, no, it's not. It is a big deal, and it's just another reason why Tony Khan needs to start putting in some serious clauses into their contracts, because apparently, and this is why we need laws, people don't behave properly when they're not told to. MJF should be punished. He should be fined. He should be suspended, and he should have the title stripped. He should go to anger management counseling, and he should be gone for at least 6 months. You have no idea what kind of emotional and psychological damage this is going to do to a 12-year-old. And I don't want to hear it's not a big deal, because you're not that person. You're not the one who was wrong. You're not the one who was assaulted by some grown-ass man trying to play a character in a promotion in an industry that caters to teenagers. I'm not down with these fake YouTubers, doing like fake pranks for the kidnapped people and shit like that. And I'm not down with this shit either. Like, it's the same type of terrible. So yeah, I need to see some fucking changes.
No, absolutely. And this is gonna be spun into the larger narrative of a lot of these internet what do they call it? Not hermits, internet incels,
Yep.
if you will, about the continuous and hard nosed pussification of America and society. Where you can't take a joke or a hit or some bad verbiage or whatever, that's gonna be spun into that larger narrative. Um, but even outside of that, like, how many more times is Khan gonna want to sit in these press conferences and have to sit next to the problem or the perceived problem?
And keep in mind that CM Punk is still gone from the company because he said something people didn't like.
Yeah.
The executive vice presidents of operation kicked his door open, hurt his dog, and started a fight. But Punk's the one who's gone. And the trio is making all sorts of comments about it any chance they can. Like, this is that company. This company is not being ran by an owner. It's not being ran by a man who knows what he's doing. It's being ran by somebody who wants to be part of the boys. They either need a CEO who can sit here and say, no, you're fucking suspended until I say otherwise. If you want to try to leave, don't worry about it, because your contract's on hold until you come back and finish your dates. And I'm going to keep you suspended until you realize how fucked up you were. But instead, Tony Khan just is like, I want to be part of the boys club. Like me. Like, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, WWE's getting sold. And apparently we have some numbers from bookies.com who have listed out the potential owners off of their assumption. Now, these aren't rumors. These aren't, realistic possibilities. Bookies.com simply came together and looked at people who may be interested with the money they have to offer and the reasons they would have to offer. And this is who they believe makes the most sense according to the odds. Again, these are not the suspected front runners. These are just who bookies.com suggests that if you're going to put money down on this, who they suggest you put money down on. Number one is Comcast. Now, Comcast owns NBC, USA, so they're a pretty big deal. And that makes a lot of sense, especially because NBC's Peacock heavily features the WWE Network. Now, Marcus, if you're WWE, maybe Comcast makes the most sense. I think Comcast also has like a cable conglomerate still, for people who do cable still. Here are the other... No, never mind. Those were products. I thought they were other channels. They own a lot of shit. They own... No, that's Paramount Plus. That owns Nickelodeon. Never mind. But anyway, Comcast is NBC and USA, so that makes a lot of sense. I think DreamWorks is owned by Comcast as well. Disney's, so they're at plus 275. Disney's at plus 300. Amazon's at plus 400. Endeavor, who owns the UFC, is at plus 450. I've read somewhere that they're already out of the bidding, that they're not interested in buying the WWE, so who knows if that's true. Netflix is at plus 600. Liberty Media, I don't know who that is at plus 1,000. And The Field, again, I don't know who that is at plus 1,400. The one name we keep hearing a lot about is the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, and they're not even listed. So maybe they're not listed due to ethical reasons, because Saudi Arabia is a shithole. Although they're building some impressive projects, but that still doesn't erase their human rights violations. Marcus, Is there anyone you want to see buy up the WWE off that list? We got Comcast, Disney, Amazon, Endeavor, Netflix, Liberty Media, and the Field, whoever that is. I'm looking up who the Field is at the moment. Marcus is currently away from his computer at the moment.
Oh, sorry, muted myself. Yeah, that was I don't know. Comcast, I can see. I don't know if Disney wants to get endeavored with the wrestling of it all. Um, I can see you checking out the Field. Um,
Yeah, the Field is hard to find.
yeah. So anyway,
Because
I yeah.
one is a cast iron skeleton company. I don't think that's it. Then there's Field of nope, that's a definition. So yeah, I don't know who the Field is. Liberty Media, however, owns SiriusXM. They
Mm,
own Live Nation. They own 35% of Live Nation. They own the Atlanta Braves. They own a bunch of Formula One. They own Stars, Court TV, Direct TV Sports, or at least parts of it. Overture Films, Stars Entertainment, Sportsnet, McNeil and Lair Productions. So they got a lot of small offerings.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
cool.
most obvious would be Comcast because of NBC and USA and their long tenured history there. But I think it's going to end up going to Saudi, and I think I think they're going to realize that when the Saudis are involved, the WWE will truly have a reason to die.
Jesus Christ.
So yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Another.
Yes.
Yeah. Cause let's see. Okay, now we all talked about that, but yeah. That'll just be trash specifically for the women.
Yeah, it won't be good. Speaking of women, apparently Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné won't be wrestling again in New Japan until Sakura Genesis in April. Let's see. So apparently she goes on to say, I mean, besides taking it on carpets and autograph signings all over the world, I want to see what little promotions pop up too. I know next time I played is April 8th in Tokyo, Japan for Sakura Genesis. I have a girl named Azam or AZM calling me out. So I've been putting the offer on the table for who's next on the list. I want to see who's running from Mercedes Moné because I turned nobody down. I turned down to nobody, sorry. I'm always here for the check and I'm always here for the bag, and whoever has the biggest bag is where I'm going to go. Check and bag is the same thing. Jesus Christ. Meltzer reported in April 27th edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter that Mercedes Monday's next match would be a match against AZM at Sakura Genesis. Additionally, Meltzer said Mercedes was scheduled to face Mayu Iwatani at the Stardom event on April 23rd, two of her remaining confirmed dates in Japan. Mercedes Moné also commented on her experience in Battle in the Valley, the site of her first match in nearly 9 months. I don't care about that. Marcus, New Japan's paying Mercedes Moné quite a lot of money, and apparently she's only doing two matches in the month of April. Do you think New Japan and Stardom are getting their money's worth?
I guess in a way, because it is getting them it is getting eyes on the product. You know, both on New Japan and certainly specifically the women's brand. Um, but it's sustainability. You know, I guess we're gonna see as it progresses, because obviously everybody wanted to see the first match back was always gonna draw a lot of eyes because they want to see what she was gonna look like, what she was the whole character was gonna be, and what she was gonna be like in the ring after so long. Um, but it could be a lot of diminishing returns if for a lot of people, it's kind of like the same old thing, just with a new coat of paint, or just they prefer to see her against the women that they're used to seeing her with, because they can't too much getting heavily invested in Japanese channels that they're not really interested in getting to know, based off of just being there for her. So, because a lot of times American artists can be real fugazi in terms of fully diving in the stuff that they're not used to. So particularly when it comes to wrestling. So um, I don't know exactly how much they're paying. I'm sure it's a pretty penny because if it was, I guess, comparable more so than what she was getting with WWE. Uh, but I think like I said, I think time will tell as it goes along. If she was a good long term investment.
She may not even be a long term investment for all we know, but I do agree that
Yeah,
if the numbers are good, if interest is up because of her, then she's worth the money.
yeah.
However, I found over the last, I haven't been watching wrestling that long. When did I start watching? 1990. So, only like 33 years. So like I don't have a lot of experience in this industry. What I've noticed, however, is a single name can only draw so much interest. You need a stable, you need a company, you need a crew. I don't think, and I have no numbers. I have no inside leanings. I don't know anything about the inner workings in New Japan. I don't see how it's possible that Mercedes Moné can move the needle so much that somebody like Kazuchika Okada could. So I don't see them having such a significant spike in business because as much as people like Sasha Banks, she doesn't have the mainstream appeal as so many other people. I don't know why. She does pop up in entertainment, but it's not because Sasha Banks is in the... Because you never see, like, The Mandalorian now has Sasha Banks. Yet if The Rock's attached to anything, it's now we have The Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 90s, it was, oh, look, Hulk Hogan's attached to this. That must be good. Evander Holyfield, that was a crossover star. There were certain... Like, look at someone like Lennox Lewis. You and I like our boxing. And I can't speak to the British folk, but Lennox Lewis was maybe the best heavyweight for a 15-year period, maybe 12. But Lennox Lewis never had mainstream appeal. He was everywhere. Did interviews, popped up. I think he cameoed on some movies. But nobody showed up for Lennox Lewis. It wasn't because Lennox Lewis wasn't a good dude or because people don't like Lennox. It was because he just didn't have that mainstream appeal. Same thing with the Klitschko brothers. I think the Klitschko brothers are now more popular for fighting a war than they ever were as boxers. So when I look at Sasha Banks, like, she isn't the mainstream star that people keep thinking she is. And it's not her fault. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Whenever a wrestler crosses over into new space, everyone in the wrestling community is like, oh my, they're a crossover star. Are they a crossover star or are they a talent who's getting another opportunity? Because Ronda Rousey was a crossover star. She sucked. Sasha Banks is actually a solid actress. I wouldn't say she's great.
Yeah.
But like if you were doing a Melrose Place revival, she could play one of the trashy neighbors. Right? Like if you were looking at some soap operas, her and Jesse Goddard I think are on the same level. I'm not knocking Jesse Goddard either. He's a solid actor. I'm saying that Sasha Banks is not being put on the Mandalorian's title card. It's not, what's his name? Pedro? It's not Pedro Pascal and Sasha Banks. It's just Pedro Pascal, the Mandalorian. It's not even Pedro Pascal. It's just the Mandalorian. They're not even booking Gorgu. Gorgu's not even a headliner to this bitch. So, like, no, I don't think Sasha Banks is a name that can move the needle. But then again, I don't think there's anyone in wrestling who could. Like, not right now. Like, Cody Rhodes popped up on Arrow, and like, they didn't really hype up that pro wrestler Cody Rhodes was going to be on Arrow, and we were watching Arrow regularly. Like, when they did the trailer, maybe they're like, WWE wrestler Cody Rhodes guest stars. Maybe they did that, but I don't think they did.
Which I think they did a little bit of that, but it also didn't help that the character that he was clashing with him on TV at the time wasn't technically Cody Rhodes, it was Stardust.
Yeah, so it wasn't even that effective because it wasn't even the right character.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not a knock on Sasha Banks. It's just that WWE doesn't have that mainstream appeal. And if they did, they wouldn't be going to guys like Logan Paul and Bad Bunny. They would be doing the inverse. Because, like, in the 2000s, they weren't bringing in Wyclef Jean. Wyclef Jean was bringing in The Rock. Is Sasha Banks being pulled in because of her big name? No. It's not her fault. It's not anything against her. I don't think anyone could. I don't think Roman Reigns would be even better. Roman Reigns was actually in a movie. How many of y'all knew that? I wouldn't say very many because they really didn't tell anyone. Because like getting Roman Reigns wasn't a get. He showed up because he was The Rock's cousin or second cousin.
Yeah, it had a double level of Samoan.
Best friends, married mom's best friend's hairdresser's cousin.
He was, he's The Rock's real life cousin, and in the movie, he's The Rock's.
So he has depth as an actor. So yeah, I don't see Mercedes Moné moving the needle, but that doesn't mean she's not a good fit for New Japan. Doesn't mean that she's not going to help New Japan. It's just her dollar value and what she brings to the company needs to be kind of more in line with one another, and it helps not having to deal with the fuckery that is Bullet Club at the moment. Now, we talked about this off air, and we're going to talk about it on air because I think it's a good talking point. Dave Finlay has officially joined the Bullet Club at New Japan's 51st anniversary show. He showed up with Ghetto, and yeah, that was pretty much it. That's how he got indoctrinated into the Bullet Club. And it caused me to think, well, not Kenny Omega, Jay White's gone. So who's the new leader of the Bullet Club? And according to Wikipedia, Marcus is already laughing because he knows the answer. According to the way this is formatted, it appears to say that Evil is the leader of Bullet Club. And Evil is... Listen, if we're talking about New Japan in Super Mario terms, Evil isn't even one of the Troopa Koopas from Super Mario Brothers.
Troopa Koopas.
He's one of the... what the fuck are those little brown things called? They're an Italian slur. I'm not kidding. Goombas. The Goombas. The Italian slur that are the Goombas. That's who Evil is. They even have the same body type. I think... I'm sorry, wait, no. The Goombas are actually taller than Evil. So, we both kind of laughed that this is the weakest era of the Bullet Club and that Marcus even suggests that maybe it's time to shut the doors. I had a different take. I think it's time for Bad Luck Fale to take the reins as the true leader of the company and turn them into an actual violent gang that isn't trying to be cool. Because right now they're trying to be cool. They do the NWO Wolfpack and they come down to their music and they're selling their merchandise. And everyone wanted to be part of the Bullet Club. But they've brought in so many guys recently that it doesn't really have the same impact. So I think what you need to do is to shake up the company, to shake up the group, do the inverse, have Bad Luck Fale not murder Evil, but murder Evil, kick him out of the group, and then basically have a night where he does it to anyone he doesn't think is Bullet Club enough, leaving a group of individuals who are more violent and more geared towards inflicting violence. And I think that's the way to go with the next incarnation of the Bullet Club. But I'm not going to get any there with Evil. Marcus, anyone is better than Evil as a leader. Even Taichi, your favorite.
Man, freaking hilarious. You could throw Yujiro in there as long as he's with Peter all the time.
No, we could just have Peter.
Yeah, but I feel like this, like Mello and Trick Williams, they're like a combo pack.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just get the one toy.
I mean, I'm gonna try.
Exactly. And I think the reason why I kind of had tossed around it being indie because it's been like there's really been no real hard consistency with it. Like, and it feels like almost Jay White might have been the last of, as the saying goes, the Mohican, if you will, in terms of having like a genuine linchpin, because Tama's been kind of like whatever for a while now. He's like, I'm gonna loosely be affiliated with him. I'm gonna go off and do my own thing, of course, with my brother, and then obviously now finally solo. And then you got it with a whole different broke off faction in America that's not like something that's loosely based off of it, like what we're seeing it to be like. No, it's a whole other faction developing an impact, a word developing an impact, and then you had like the shaky leadership, and then like they were a faction, but kind of almost felt like a name only for like roster purposes. So it's not like a definitive heft to it like it did back when AJ was there. And also that's the kind of feels like when they held, like you said, a definitive narrative that the company was behind. Because every year it was, okay, this guy's the new guy. He's going to tear it up. He's going to rip it up. He's going to be the guy. And then something's going to go down big, of course, at Wrestle Kingdom. And then immediately New Year's Dash, they're getting kicked out. Literally getting super kicked out by the Bucks. Particularly if they was going to another company. And then that was the narrative for like years. Mm-hmm. And then that eventually stopped because obviously the Bucks were gone, and then Kenny was gone, And then, like I said, leadership and stuff got fuzzy, and then it didn't just have the most oomph. But I think, to your point, if they get back to kind of some of that old tag, because what the first definitive faction of the Bullet Club was what Finn, Finlay, Anderson, and what Gallows.
Something like that.
Yeah, if you put one in, obviously you're only gonna be able to get one of them because obviously Finlay, if you get him as the big pit boss is what they call him, I think. And really start driving home. Like we need to get back to what we were in some form of fashion, or something as good as what we were. Then you could kick up some of that momentum. Because, like you said, there is a power vacuum with Suzuki going being defunct at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
You're not wrong. All right, moving on to WWE 2K 23 Season Pass. This is trash. This is so bad. All right, so there's like 5 or 6, and the big names for the season pass are spread out across them. It's going to be Eve Torres, Wade Barrett, the Steiner brothers, and Tiny Liston's. I think it's Tiny Liston, right? Is that his name from Friday?
Yeah, Zeus, huh?
Yeah, Zeus. I'm trying to remember his actual name. I don't think it's Tiny Liston. It's Tiny Lister. That's who it was.
Yeah, Tiny Lister. Yeah.
So here's who's all in this group, and I swear to God, Marcus laughed at me when I went through this list because I had no idea who half these people were. So the Steiner Row pack. I don't know why it's called Steiner Row, but I'm fine with it. Scott and Rick Steiner, Top Dollar, Ashante Adonis, and B-Fab. They're your first 5, and B-Fab is just a manager, not a playable character. B-Fab, I believe, is the female of the group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because the Ashante name throws me for a loop every time because I think of Asante, the former R&B artist, or the current R&B artist. I just don't know if she's still performing. And then we have the Pretty Sweet pack that has Pretty Sweet, Not Too Sweet. I get it. Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, plus Tiffany Stratton, Elton Prince, and Kit Wilson. I feel like I just let off the names of like a really poorly rated porn from 1999. We have the Race NXT pack that had Harley Race. That's dope. Then we have Ivy Nile. What? Wendy Chu, or Chow. I don't know. I think it's Chu. Tony D'Angelo and Trick Williams. I like Wendy Chu. She's got a very NXT gimmick, and that's pretty dope. The whole, like, constantly in PJs look. It's not for me, but, you know, they're trying to find the next Bailey, and I feel like this is a clever enough concept. I think kids will love it. We have the Revel with Wyatt pack. We had Bray Wyatt's Zeus Valhalla, who is the former Sarah Logan, Sarah Rowe. I know.
Yeah, Sarah Logan. Yeah.
So that's stupid. Joe Gacy and Blair Davenport. I'm not even sure who Blair Davenport is. Isn't that like somebody from the OC?
Sounds like it.
Right. Oh, it's Bay Priestley.
Oh, okay.
So that's a dumb name. Then we have the Bad News U pack, which features Eve Torres, Wade Barrett, Damon Kemp, Andre Chase, and Nathan Frazier. Why is, like, no one I know has ever woken up going, God, they really need to put Eve Torres and Wade Barrett in a WWE video game. Never. Like, there are probably, like, I guarantee you people at Powerbomb Jitsu love the fact that Zeus is in this game. They love it. I don't know that they love it, but I'm assuming they do. Because they would be down for seeing some like Tiny Lister get some credit and do, just because I'm sure they're general fans of the guy. But like, I don't care. But I don't know anyone who would care about Eve Torres. She was around for like 38 days. And Wade Barrett's entire career was summed up by he got jobbed out at SummerSlam 2010. That's it. So yeah, this is a stupid season pass. Season passes are dumb. Selling a game for $70 and then making people pay extra money for the rest of the game is predatory practices. So, like, fuck off.
Which has actually become, it feels like, the whole of gaming culture.
Yeah,
which is one
gaming
of the
culture has really fallen off.
Which is one of the few reasons why I'm glad I haven't been in gaming culture since the GameCube. Because I'm like, they really just making people buy the other half of the game while paying full price for it the first time.
Yep.
What the hell is that?
It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's I you know, I'm just hoping that the game's good because one of them 2K games was literally like an ongoing Twitter joke.
I think it was 2020 WTK 2020 because they didn't have one in 2021, and last year's the current version was the first one back.
Yeah.
All
So
right, so the Wrestling Observer Awards for 2022 have come out. Wrestler of the Year was given it to John Moxley. I wouldn't say that's a bad pick because this isn't Dave Meltzer's picks. He opens it up for a voting.
mm,
So like
okay.
everyone like that is like on this voting panel has a say. So like John Moxley won that.
All
I
right.
would have said Josh Alexander. I'm sure you would have said Josh Alexander.
Yeah.
Alexander Hammerstone is also, I think, someone in the running for that award, but that's just me. Then we had MMA Fighter of the Year. He went with Israel Adesanya, which is, or not he, they did, which I think is fucking stupid because he lost this year. He got brutalized by a dude who had like 6 fights in MMA. He was a former kickboxer, so it's not like this dude had no fighting experience, but still. The most outstanding wrestler, which is just in-ring product, is Will Ospreay. The most outstanding fighter of the year goes to Alexander Volkanovski, who just lost. Tag team of the year goes to FTR.
Mm.
And then we have best on the interviews, MJF, which is a lie. That just
What?
yeah. And he's back to back. He won it in 2021 as well. Promotion of the year is All Elite Wrestling. Well, okay. Best weekly TV show is Dynamite. Hard pass. Match of the year is shocker. Kazuchika Okada versus Will Ospreay at the G1 Climax in Japan on August 18th. New Japan usually wins the award, so that's not shocking. MMA match of the year goes to Yuri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira. This was actually kind of an interesting fight because Glover Teixeira was winning the fight until like the last 15 seconds when Yuri Prochazka got Glover against the cage wall and threw like an elbow that knocked out Glover. So like I get that.
Mm.
John Moxley won the United States and Canada MVP, while Kazuchika Okada won the Japan MVP. El Hijo del I can do this. El Hijo del Vikingo won the Mexico MVP. Will Ospreay won the Europe MVP. I was about to say the Eugene MVP, so like yeah, that was funny. El Hijo del Vikingo also won the non-heavyweight MVP. Women's wrestling MVP goes to Sayuri from Stardom. Women's MMA MVP goes to Zhang Weili. I'm not sure if I agree with that. Best box office draw in MMA goes to Israel Adesanya. Again, I don't agree with that. And pro wrestling is Roman Reigns. Feud of the year goes to FTR versus the Briscoes. I don't know about that. Most improved goes to the Acclaimed. That's fair. I agree with that. Or at least I agree that they're in the running. Mic worker of the year or most charismatic goes to MJF. Whatever. Best technical wrestler goes to Bryan Danielson. This shouldn't shock anyone because the award is literally called the Bryan Danielson Award. He won it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. He then retired, and Zachary Sabre Jr. won it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Then Bryan Danielson went and came back and won it 2 more times. So now he has 11.
There's a bias in the force. What a believable one.
Well, I don't even think it's a bias so much as like we're just watching Michael Jordan in red trunks.
Hey, very confident.
Right? Bruiser Brody Memorial Award. This is for the best brawler. The award goes to John Moxley. He's won it a few times over the last 3 years. Best high flyer goes to El Hijo del Vikingo. Most overrated goes to Ronda Rousey. Most underrated goes to Jesus Christ. Kanasuke Takashita? Did I say that right? Of DDT Pro Wrestling and AEW. The best rookie of the year goes to Braun Breaker. Best non-wrestler goes to Paul Heyman. I didn't need to see that to know that. Best television announcer goes to Kevin Kelly of New Japan. Worst television announcer goes to Corey Graves, back-to-back winner.
Marty had fallen.
He's won the award 3 out of the last 4 times.
That's crazy. And he got years ago. He was lauded because most of which he got a nod from Paul Heyman.
Right.
And I was like, yeah.
Best major wrestling show goes to Forbidden Door, the crossover between New Japan and All Elite. Worst major show goes to Royal Rumble 2022. Jesus Christ. Best wrestling maneuver goes to Will Ospreay with the Hidden Blade. Most disgusting promotional tactic goes to Vince McMahon appearing on television for a crowd pop after the sexual misconduct allegations came out.
That was funny, man.
Yes, it's pretty good. Worst television show goes to WWE Raw. Didn't even need to see it. I just knew it. Worst match of the year goes to Pat McAfee versus Vince McMahon at WrestleMania. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, that was the thing, wasn't it?
Worst feud of the year goes to The Miz versus Dexter Lumis. Worst promotion of the year goes to the WWE. Didn't even need to see that. Best booker goes to Tony Khan. Promoter of the year goes to Tony Khan. Best gimmick goes to Sami Zayn. Worst gimmick goes to the Maximum Male Models. Blood and Fire was the book of the year. I've never heard of it. It was by Brian Solomon. Best pro wrestling DVD or documentary, Tales from the Territories of Lawler Kaufman. That was from the Viceland. The Shad Gaspard John Huber Memorial Award goes to Dustin Poirier. I cover him, man. I'd say his name. Through his Good Fight Foundation, provided assistance to undeserved and vulnerable communities in South Louisiana. There it is. Marcus, any of these stand out that make you go, you know what?
I'm just like happy and disappointed that Impact didn't get the best of anything or the worst of anything. Well, it just didn't get acknowledged at all. But other than that, everything pretty much. I mean, there seems to be an AEW fetish or bias, if you will. But other than that, everything pretty much matches up. I feel like our boy LA Knight would have been mentioned in there some way if he didn't spend half of the time. I guess the voting thing was talking about in the worst faction or worst gimmick being the Maximum Male Models thing. But thankfully, I feel like he'll have a better year next year.
He went from the worst gimmick to the worst feud to the worst match. Because that Bray Wyatt feud is trash. And then you had that Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. Like, what are we doing? Guys, what are we doing? This is dumb. So, that's a thing. Any final thoughts on anything?
Yeah, because you're one of his biggest fans. I guess it was going around on Twitter somewhere. I guess your boy Goldberg was quoted saying that the WWE kind of owes him a retirement match. And for you, do you think he actually deserves a retirement match? And who would you like to see retire? They'll go.
Well, that's a hell of a way to end the show. Marcus, do you have anyone you'd want to see retire Bill Goldberg?
Nobody from the Hart family. Honestly, because of their interaction, because I know how big a fan he is, and I think this was going around huge on Twitter too. If he could come back and be healthy for a Big E,
that'd be dope.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
Yeah.
All right, so we're done with the show. We will be back next Monday. We're going to be doing weeks 3 and 4. Sorry, weeks 3 and 4 of the Anyway Weekly TNA pay-per-views. I don't know if, Marcus, you've already started it, but may God have mercy on your soul and Dominus Pater Spiritus Sancti. Although you walk through the valley of death, you will fear no evil.
But Chad is watching
for I am with you.
and laughing. Uh,
You knew that when you were walking with me, there was 2 footsteps, and then you looked back and there was only one, and then you said, "Wait, did Chad abandon me?" And I said, "Yeah, bitch, of course I did."
over a medium-sized megaphone.
Not even a megaphone. I'm using a conch shell. I'm Jason Momoa, bitch. RealNerdCorp.com, RealNerdCorp.com. We're on Twitter at NERDCORP. We're on Marcus, you're on Twitter at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow, on Twitter. Check them out for more wrestling goodness. You can also find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, CHDNERDCORP, and on the Instagram at ChadSpotowet. The website's Twitter account, once again, is NERDCORP. That's RealNerdcorp.com. Go there for all the past podcasts. It's the easiest way to keep up with us. For Marcus Green, I'm Chad Portal. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night.